So today we're going to continue with our factoring. The difference now is we're going to have a number in front of our x squared. So it's going to make the numbers that we're going to be looking for factors of a little bit larger. Now, I am going to teach you a factor by grouping, which is what we just took a test on. So I'm going to teach you to turn it into a 4-term polynomial, find the greatest common factor, and factor it out. There are all kinds of tricks out there. The problem with the tricks is I know even with myself, I forget the tricks because I know several tricks. I've learned one recently that I like. It's pretty easy. After we practice the factor by grouping, I'll be happy to show you the trick, but I want you to get the basics down. And again, the way that you are going to be successful with this is to FOIL your answers after you think you've come up with the correct factors. FOILing is going to save you because if you have the wrong sign, say you think it's a plus and a minus, but that subtraction sign is on the wrong number, it's wrong. So this is why FOILing will save your answer. So again, they're still making us practice FOILing. And then 4 through 5, this is exactly what we've done for homework the last 3 nights. So 1 through 3 in this warm-up is just FOILing it. And then 4, 5, and 6 is what we've done for homework for the last 3 days. Yes?
How do you get the positive 3?
The positive 3?
Yeah, on the first one.
Okay, let's try it. So we have x minus 2 and 2x plus 7. We're going to do first. Oops. And we get 2x squared. Outer gives us plus 7x. Inside gives me negative 4x. And last gives me negative 14. When I combine my middle terms, I'm doing 7 minus 4, and it gives me positive 3. Everybody good on that? All right. So this is what we're going to be looking at. Our binomials, remember all the ones we've done for homework in the past have had like x plus something, like x and x. This time, one of our binomials, there's going to be a number in front of this, and maybe even both, depending on what the factors are. So let's go through this. Now, some books, and this will also show us, to guess and test. I'm going to teach you a method where we're going to multiply the first and the last term and then factor by grouping. So here, it's telling us that previously we just factored trinomials that were in this form, nothing in front of x squared. Now, it's still in the same order. The only difference is we're going to have something in front of x squared, a number that's other than a 1. So here again, they're practicing with the FOILing. So they did first the 3 times the 2x, and they got the 6x. Then they did the 3 times the 5, and they didn't show it, but it's the 15, and then the 2 times the 2. So when you did the outer and the inner, you get the middle. So let's try this. So what we're going to do is we're going to be factoring the trinomials, and I'm going to show you the process for this. I'm going to add a slide here. The exact same polynomial that they gave us, the 6x, I'm going to take the squared plus 19x plus 10. So I'm going to simplify what they have on their notes. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to multiply the first and the last number, and we get 60. I am now going to do the same thing that I just did in 7-3. I am looking for 2 numbers that will multiply to give me the 60, but again, who are going to add to give me the middle. So same process, but instead now we have to use this number out front. So let's start listing the factors of 60. So let's do it in order, because remember I told you don't forget about the obvious one, the 1 times 60. Okay, it doesn't work for this one, but be aware that you can't forget about that one. So 1 times 60, can something multiply by 2 to give me 60?
30. Oh,
Good. What about 3?
20.
15. No.
20.
20. What about 4? 15, like Daniel just said. Now, as soon as you find the one that's going to work, stop. We could have kept going. 5 goes into 60 12 times. So now I found my factors. It's going to be 4 times 15 and 4 plus 15. So now, what we're going to do now, it's different from what we did before. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to replace this 19 with the 2 factors. So I'm going to rewrite the 6x squared. Now instead of writing 19x, I'm going to put in 4x and 15x. I'm still going to rewrite the 10. So all I've done is taken my original problem and I've replaced the middle with the 2 factors of 60 that I found. Now we're going to do what you just did on the test you took before spring break. We are going to factor by grouping. So now I'm going to make a group. Remember how I did a red group and a blue group? So here's my red group. Here's my blue group. What is my greatest common factor of red between the 6x squared and the 4x? 2x. So this is what we did on the test. So now I'm going to divide by the GCF. And I get 3x plus 2. What's my greatest common factor of my blue group? 5. So now I'm going to divide, and I get 3x plus 2. Remember, when we did this, these 2 parentheses needed to look the same. If they didn't, then you pulled the wrong GCF out. Okay? Then remember, once you have the same, write it once. So I'm going to write 3x plus 2. And then I take the 2 GCFs that are outside, and they are my other parenthesis. And that's your answer. Let's FOIL it and make sure it goes back to the original problem. So first, outside, inside, and last. When I add them, I do get the 19, so I did factor it correctly. So the answer to my problem is the 3x plus 2 and the 2x plus 5. So we're combining several different techniques that we learned, okay? The first step is what's different. You multiply the first and the last term, but then finding the factors that add and multiply is the same as what we've been doing. And then the factor by grouping is what we did at the beginning of chapter 7. Okay, now in your notes, they're telling you to guess and test. The problem with guess and test is you're going to have to go through and test out every factor of 6 and every factor of 4 that works together to give you the trinomial. And it's very time consuming. So if you look at the slide where they show guess and test, look at all the problems you have to do until you find the one that works. So what they're telling you to do is list out all of the factors of 6. So 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. All of the factors of 4. And then find out which combination of these 4 things works. And it's time consuming, especially when you get bigger numbers. Right now it's pretty small. So this is why the technique I just showed you by factor by grouping is a lot more efficient. We're going to try another example. Okay, here we go again. This time we have a different middle term. So I'm going to take my 6x squared plus 11x plus 4. I'm going to multiply the beginning and the end. And now I'm looking for the factors of 24 that when I add them, give me 11. So what times what gives me 24, but what plus what gives me the middle, which is 11. Clara? 8 times 3. Okay, now you could go through and make your whole list. 1 times 24, 2 times 12. But again, these are smaller, so it's not so bad. So here we go. Now we're going to make the 4-term polynomial. So we're going to rewrite the 6x squared. Now instead of 11x, I'm putting the 2 factors she just told me. So plus 3x plus 8x. It doesn't matter the order you put them in there. When we factor by grouping, we're still going to get the same answer. So now I've turned it into 4 terms. Now I factor by grouping. I'm going to make a red group and a blue group. What is the greatest common factor of my red group? 3x. See how they both have x's in common? So now I'm going to divide. And my first one's done. Now I need to do the blue group. Okay, my blue group. What's my GCF between 8x and 4? 4, good. They both don't have x's, so it's just a 4. So I put plus 4. I'm going to divide. And notice both of my parentheses look the same. If it doesn't, then you know you've picked the wrong greatest common factor. So now I take the 2x plus 1. I'm going to write it once. And then I take the 2 numbers outside. And again, you should be foiling this. If after you foil it, if it doesn't go back to this, you did something wrong. Yes. For tonight's homework, let's foil it. Okay? Then after we get the hang of it, then we're going to stop. Yes, Faith.
For 3 and 8, did you add an x?
Yes. So really what we're doing is we're trying to find the factors of 24x squared, which are going to be 3x and 8x. So when you put it back in there, you're going to add the variable to each term, each factor. Yes. Okay, because I'm trying to replace 11x with 2 numbers that'll add to give it to me. So that's going to be a 3x plus an 8x. So let's FOIL it, double check that we did it correctly. So first gives me 6x squared. Outside gives me 8x. Inside gives me 3x. And last gives me 4. When I group them, I do get the 11 in the middle. So I did do it correctly. My answer is here in yellow and green. Let's try another example. Okay. Looking like the same first term, that same 6x squared, but the other numbers are different. So here we go again. And again, they're showing the guess and test. Again, you can do guess and test, but it's going to take a little bit of time. So again, let's stick with this, multiplying the beginning and the end. So 6 times 3 is 18. I need 2 factors of 18 that when I add them, I get 11. Anybody know 2 numbers that are going to multiply to give me 18, but add to give me 11?
9 and 2.
Good, 9 and 2. Okay, and again, it doesn't matter the order you put them in here. When I set up my binomial, which one you want to put first? Anybody have any preference if I put the 2 or the 9 first?
9.
You want the 9 first? Okay. If I put the 2 first, I still get the same thing. So we're going to go ahead and fill it in. So remember, all we've done is replaced the middle term with the 2 factors. Now I factor by grouping. So a parenthesis around that and a parenthesis around that. What's my greatest common factor of red? 3x, right? Divide. 3x. I get 2x plus 3. What's my greatest common factor of blue? 1. Good. We can't forget that it's got a 1 GCF and then just rewrite the thing because 1 divided by anything is just itself. Okay? Now I have 2 parentheses that look the same. Everybody see that? Because there was no common factor between 2x and 3. It was just 1. No other number besides 1. Okay? So now I take the 2 numbers outside. Or let me do the first thing. Let's do this one first. This is the same. So rewrite it. And then take the 2 GCFs. That's the other parenthesis. 3x plus 1. Let's FOIL it. Yes?
When the middle number has an x, the 2 numbers will have an x.
Yes. So whatever letter is with the middle number, put it with the 2 factors. Okay, so let's go ahead and FOIL this, make sure it worked. So I get a 6x squared, a 2x, a 9x, and a 3. I add them up, and I'm done. It checked. Yes?
Could you put like 3x plus 1 and then 2x plus 3?
Yes. Okay, so the order doesn't matter. So if you prefer to write the yellow one first, you can, and then the green one. So the order of the binomial didn't matter. Doesn't matter which one you write first. It's still going to FOIL back. Because remember, if I multiply 2 times 3, I get 6, or if I do 3 times 2, I get 6. So the order that I write down the numbers doesn't matter. It still gives me the same product. Okay, let's see. This is the same one. Here's a new one. Oh, they've changed it now. Now we don't have 6x squared in front. We're going to have a 3x squared. So let's try this one. So 3x squared minus 2x minus 8. Again, we're going to multiply the beginning and the end. So again, I got a 24, but this time it's negative. Okay? So 2 numbers that are going to multiply to give me negative 24, but add to give me negative 2. Paulina.
Is it 6x plus 74? Negative 6 plus.
Good. Negative 6 and positive 4 are going to be the terms. Okay, so rewrite the 3x squared. I'm going to replace this negative 2. What do you want to put first, the negative 6 or the 4? Any preference? Negative 6 first? Okay. Plus 4x, and then the negative 8. Because again, negative 6 plus 4 gives me negative 2. So those are the 2 factors. Now we factor by grouping. Blue group and red group. Yes?
It doesn't matter the order for the 6 and 4.
No, it doesn't matter. It's still going to simplify to the same thing. You're going to think, but if I put the 3 with the 4, there's no number in common. But that's okay. It still has an x in common. So it'll still work out. So it doesn't matter which one you put with what. It'll still factor to the same thing. All right, so my greatest common factor of red group.
Pardon the interruption. All students participating in the career zone, please report to the I-Lounge.
But somebody was about outdoors.
Okay, so GCF of red group. 3x. Good. All right, so then divide. What's my greatest common factor of blue group? 4. Notice again, my 2 parentheses after I divided look the same. So I'm going to rewrite one of them. And now I take these 2. And now you're going to FOIL it. That's what you're going to do in the homework tonight. X times 3x gives me 3x squared. Go to here. Now do the 2. Add the middles. And it does indeed FOIL back. So we got the right answer. Let's try another one. So here, again, they're telling you to do the check. FOIL it. Okay, too many times I see students get the right factors, but they put it with the wrong sign. They switch it up, and they put the wrong one with the plus sign and the wrong one with the minus sign. So the FOILing's going to save you. Okay, here's another one. We're going to have 2x squared. So 2 times 21, I have 42. I am looking for 2 numbers that multiply to give me 42, but who add to give me 17. Now, too many times I've been seeing students, they're like, I can't figure it out. So then when they come over to me, I tell them, okay, start writing it down. Let's get a visual. Let's make a nice organized list. Okay, because sometimes it's not obvious to you. So let's make our list. So first one, and we're going to do it organized so we don't miss anything. So 1 times 42, does that give me 17? No. Nope. How about 2 times 21? Okay, will 3 work? 3 times something give me 42? No. 14. Will that give me 17 when I add that? Yes, it does. So as soon as you encounter the one that works, stop. So here, 3 times 14 is 42, and 3 plus 14 is 17. Now, let's go ahead and let's plug it back in. So 2x squared, and I'm going to put the 3x first. Because you're replacing 17x with basically what we're doing here. I don't know if this helps you better if you find the factors of, technically we're finding the factors of 42x squared. So what would give me a 42x squared when I multiply it is 3x times 14x. And then when I add 3x plus 14x, that's going to give me 17. So then here, 14x, and then the 21. I've replaced the 17 with the 3 and the 14. Okay, now I could have put the 14 first, but I put the 3 first. What is going to be my greatest common factor of my red group? Okay, that's going to be of the blue group. Okay, what about the red group? Okay, just an x, a 1x. So I put the x here. After I divide, I get 2x plus 3. Over here, of blue group, I still get 2x plus 3. I'm now going to take the thing that is the same, write it once, and then take my 2 GCFs. Everybody with me on that? Getting the hang of this? Okay, we're going to practice this for 3 days, okay, because this skill of factoring is very important. We will be doing it for the next 4 years and into college. So it's going to be good that you get a good grasp of this because we will be using it over and over again. So again, we're going to FOIL it. We're going to make sure it goes back to the original. If it doesn't for some reason, then you're going to erase and you're going to start all over again because you picked the wrong factors. Most of the time, it'll give you the product, the end, but it won't give you the middle. This one worked out. We did get the 17x and the 21 at the end. All right, now, notice here, when b is negative and c is positive, both of the factors are negative. And we saw that yesterday and the day before. So, but when b is positive and c is positive, they're both plus plus. And those are all the examples we saw. So now they're going to switch it up. The last term is still positive, but the middle term's negative. And again, we need negative, negative to make positive. So 3x squared minus 16x plus 16. Again, we're still multiplying, beginning times end, and I get, if you want to put the x squared here to show it, I'm looking for the factors of 48. That will give me negative 16. So two numbers that multiply to give me 48, but the same two numbers that add to give negative 16. Okay, negative 6 and negative 8. Let's see. Negative 6 and negative 8. I don't think that'll give me 16. Clara? 12 and 4. Okay, 12 and 4, and they both have to be negative. Everybody see that? Now, 6 times 8 gave me 48, but it didn't add up to give me negative 16. All right, so now that we found the two factors, again, the process is the same. We rewrite the first term, replace this middle with the two numbers we just said, so the negative 12x and the negative 4x. Again, it doesn't matter. I could have written the 4 first. I still get the same thing. And now you factor by grouping. Red group, blue group. GCF of the first one, the 3x, and that's not a plus sign, that's a 12. 3x, good. So red group will be 3x. GCF of blue group. Okay, now watch on this one. If we just pull out a 4, will my binomials look the same? Watch what happens when I divide this. I get a negative x plus 4. Does it look the same? What did we do to make it look the same? What kind of GCF did we pull out? A negative, good. So I'm actually going to pull out a negative for GCF. And now my signs are going to look the right way. So now it's going to be an x minus 4. So now I have two of the same. So x minus 4 and then 3x minus 4. The two things outside. And again, the order doesn't matter. And then you would FOIL it to make sure that it does go back to the beginning. Everybody good so far? Yes.
So, since there was a negative 16x, you're going to put the two numbers negative?
Yes. So in order to make that negative when the last term is positive, they're both negative. Let's try, all right, here's another one still with positive, positive. Let's see if we can find, here's another one. All right, so here we're going to try to find the factors of 36. So multiply the beginning and the end. Factors of 36 that give me negative 15. So let's start listing because 36 has a bunch. Oh, Clara's already got it. What do you got?
3 and 12.
Okay, 3 and 12. And they both need to be negative because negative times negative will give me positive and negative plus negative gives me negative 15. Pretty good so far? All right. 3x is the greatest common factor here. I'm going to divide, and I get 3x minus 4. Now, of my blue group, what is the greatest common factor? Okay, it looks like it's 1, but it's really going to be a negative 1 in order to get the signs to match up. So I'm actually going to divide both of them by negative 1. And now a negative 3x divided by a negative 1 gives me positive 3x. So it looks like the red group. And then positive 4 divided by negative 1 gives me the negative 4. So now I have a match. So now I write that once and then take the 2 GCFs. And we're going to FOIL it and make sure it goes back. So see, they're doing the check right here for you. So we're going to check it though, because you're going to check in tonight's homework. So 9x squared, negative 3x, negative 12x, positive 4. Group the middles, and it does give you 15. So it checked. Good. Okay, here's another one with the plus plus. Let's see if we can get to some. All right, now, when the last term is negative, this is when our factors are going to have 1 plus, 1 minus. Okay, so again, we're going to do the factor by grouping because otherwise we're going to have a whole bunch of problems to check. So here we go. We are going to take our problem, 3n squared plus 11n minus 4. I've got to multiply the beginning and the end. I am looking for factors of negative 12. So two numbers that'll multiply to give me negative 12, but the same two numbers that are going to add up to give me 11. Faith?
Oh, I was gonna ask if you have like, let's say you have like two numbers that are like 4 and 3, and there's the number that you're trying to like equal is a negative. Like you would decide which number is negative, like if it's 4 and 3 by the middle.
Yes. This particular problem, the middle number, see how it's a positive 11? That tells us the sign to put on the bigger number. Okay, so let's start listing the factors of 12 until we find the one that works. So 1 times 12, and this is telling me signs have to be different, and my bigger number is positive, and does that give me a positive 11 when I add them? I found it right away. Negative 1 times positive 12 gives me negative 12, and negative 1 plus 12 gives me 11. So I found it right away, right at the obvious. So now, turn it into the 4-term polynomial, rewrite the 3n squared, replace this with the two numbers I just found, and again, it doesn't matter the order. I'll put the negative 1x first, and then the positive 12x second, and then the minus 4. Make a red group, make a blue group. And we're going to divide by the greatest common factor. And I got x's here instead of n's. Let me fix that. So this is an n, this is an n. Okay, so now, what is my greatest common factor of my red group? 1, and do they also have a letter in common? 1n, good. So my greatest common factor here is 1n, and then I'm going to divide, and I get negative 1. What's my greatest common factor of my blue group? 4. I need to make this blue. So plus 4, and then 3n minus 1. Notice it looks the same, so rewrite one of these, and then take the 2 GCFs. And we're going to FOIL to check. First, you guys are going to become expert FOILers. minus 1n, and then minus 4. Group the middles, and it works. All right, see another example. Here again, the last number is negative, so this tells me the signs in my binomials have to be different. So I'm going to have one positive factor, one negative. The bigger number will be positive because that's the sign of the middle. So let's try it. 2x squared plus 9x minus 18. I'm going to multiply the beginning and the end, and I get negative 36. Two numbers that will multiply to give me negative 36, but the same two numbers that are going to add to give me 9. So let's start our list. Okay, bigger numbers positive, so negative 1 times 36, negative 2 times 18. Have I gotten a 9 yet when I add them? No. Not yet. Negative 3 times 12. Will that give me 9?
Yes.
Yes, it will. Okay, so now I'm going to write 2x squared. I'm going to replace the 9x with the two factors. Again, it doesn't matter the order you put them in. Make a red group, make a blue group. Divide by the greatest common factor of red. What is it? Good. 2x minus 3. Greatest common factor of blue will be 6. And again, all right, this I wrote as a plus 18. This should be a negative 18 here. So this is a minus 3. So it looks the same. Okay, if it doesn't look the same, you need to go back and see where you made a mistake. And when I wrote the original problem, that was my mistake. X plus 6. And again, you'll FOIL it and make sure it goes back. Here's another example. Again, they're multiplying. They're finding the factors of 16, negative 16. That give you negative 15. Another example, factors of negative 18. That give you 7. So they have several more examples throughout the slides practicing this. We are going to spend the next 3 days practicing this so we get a good foundation. Here's another example. Again, we're trying to look for different signs. Now, the other thing that's different here is we always want to keep our leading coefficient positive. So sometimes we're going to factor out a negative 1 first. So notice here, my leading coefficient is negative 2. I want to make that positive. I'm going to divide everything by negative 1 first and then begin my process. So I have negative 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. I want this term to be positive. So in order to make it positive, I'm dividing everything by negative 1. And now I flip all the signs. Now I begin my process of factoring. So if the first number is negative, divide everything by negative 1 to make that x squared positive. Yes?
Why do you want to make it positive?
Okay, it makes it easier to factor, especially when we take this skill later on. So you always want your leading coefficient to be positive. And in order to get that, we divide it by negative 1. All right, so now I'm looking for the factors of 6 that when I add them, I get 5. So what times what gives me 6, but what plus what gives me 5? So 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Which one of these, when I add them, give me a 5? 2 and 3, right? So that's what I'm going to use. Yes?
So whenever it's a negative, you have to turn it into positive?
Yes. Just the first term. Okay, so now I'm going to drop down the -1. I got to carry it throughout the problem. So now I rewrite the 2x squared. I replace the 5x with the two terms I just found. So the 2x and the 3x. And then rewrite the last. So now the process, the rest of the problem is the same. Make a red group, make a blue group. GCF of red is 2x. So I still keep dropping down the -1, but my red group is going to be x, well 2, x, and then x plus 1. Then GCF of blue group is going to be 3. And then I get x plus 1. So now in the final answer, you still write the -1. See how the x plus 1 was the same? Write it here. And then write the two GCFs. And then you still had the -1 out in front of the whole thing. So in order to check this, you would FOIL the middle here and then distribute the -1 back. So for example, you're going to FOIL.
Teachers and staff.
Here we go.
This is an exercise. I repeat, this is an exercise. Code red, code red.
We are silent. Not a sound.